is the motion that has been moved and supported.
Okay, you want to add an action item to add an agenda item to amend the superintendent's contract. I'm going to record this part of the meeting because we don't normally record closed meetings, and people need to hear about what's going on right now.
Okay, so all of those in favor of amending the agenda to add an action item regarding the superintendent's contract, please say aye.
Madam,
Can you say that again? Exactly.
This right now is to amend the agenda to add an action item regarding the superintendent's contract. So we're just adding
Okay.
the agenda item,
Gotcha.
and then there will be a motion to approve or, not the motion.
Madam President,
Trustee LaCoon?
I will be opposing this motion to add an agenda item right now about this because we just had this discussion. Everything is kind of a whirl. I haven't heard very compelling reasons to go forward and do any of this. So I think adding it to this agenda item to this particular meeting right now is premature. We really should be waiting until another meeting before we make a decision about this topic.
It can be done in either meeting. So we have 20 minutes. I figured we could.
All right.
It's rushed through.
So all of those in favor of adding the agenda item, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
That's a 5-1 vote, so the motion does pass. Now, is there a motion to authorize the president and treasurer of the board in consultation with legal counsel to negotiate with the superintendent regarding potential modifications to the current employment contract? Was that trustee Alspaugh?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, trustee Annis, and with support from trustee Gupta. Any discussion at this point?
Madam President,
Trustee LaCoon?
it does not make sense to be doing this. First of all, if we're going to be appointing negotiators, we should be appointing someone who has some kind of experience in contract negotiations. We shouldn't just be haphazardly doing this. The contract right now that our superintendent is in, there's no urgency to do this. This is not an emergency situation. We hired Thrun Law Firm to negotiate that contract for us to make sure that everything was in order. I don't think it makes sense to just all of a sudden appoint a couple board members to proceed forward with this idea. It doesn't make any sense to be doing this right now. I haven't heard compelling reasons for why we're going forward with this in the first place. All I've heard is I haven't heard any compelling reasons for why we're moving forward with this. Could board members please state, maybe for the public, why we are moving forward with this?
Well, I'd be happy to answer. When you look at the averages in the other districts that are comparable to ours, our superintendent has a shorter contract as well as one that does not meet the averages of those other contracts. So I think that is, I want to be fair, and I want to make sure that we have a contract in place that makes sense for our district.
Madam President, didn't our superintendent agree to this contract when he signed? He's been with us for about 10 months.
The superintendent did sign this contract.
Right, so he's been with us for less than a year. And isn't it true that all administrators in our district go through a 1-year-long probationary period that lasts for a year, and upon successful evaluation, they get extended another 2-year contract, and then upon a successful evaluation, they get a 3-year contract? So I guess I would like to ask why we are reopening this contract in less than a year when we don't do that for any other RCS administrators.
Well, I'll just say that the board does not have any other employees. We have one and only one employee, the superintendent. So the other employees are handled through administration and not by the board. Trustee Blake, did you have something?
Just that we're approaching 1 year that we've had the superintendent, so this is a time that we would normally be considering whether we would give a raise, what type of raise he would get, what other things. So this is a logical time to consider whether or not we want to make any changes to the contract. And this is not authorizing any particular changes, this is just authorizing a discussion. We're appointing people to have a discussion, and if there's an agreement reached, it'll come in front of the board, and the whole public will hear about it, the details will be out there, nothing is done secret here. This is just authorizing a conversation.
Madam President.
Trustee Annis?
So Trustee Lukui asked, what's the impetus? Why is this important to do? Personally, I feel that the current superintendent has provided something that's been missing for a while in this district, and that is stability. It's important that we send a message to this district, to the staff, to the educators, to the other administrators, to our parents who have children in this district, that we want to make sure that we have a leader in place that is stable and that we are compensating correctly. And based on some information I've seen, we're not doing that. Secondly, we're 6 weeks from a new year when the second year of this gentleman's contract is beginning. It is not premature to open the contract and have a discussion about what a 3-year contract might look like, or whatever the terms are. This is not a premature discussion to have, so I support it.
Madam President,
Trustee Lukui, you've already.
I would
stated
ask a
twice.
question of the board. And my question of the board is not just why would we renegotiate, because I agree that we could renegotiate, but what is the rush to do this right now in May before our June budget update, when we'll be receiving projections for the next school year? That's when our full financial situation will be made clear. So how can it be responsible to be giving a raise right now, only a month before the scheduled budget update? Might it make sense to postpone this until after that?
Trustee Buchanan?
No one here has agreed to give anyone a raise. We're opening up the contract for discussion. So we don't know where that's gonna land, and it could take time, and you don't wait till the day the contract, the 1 year is up to start talking about that. So we've got a good 6 weeks lead time to have good conversation and see where we can reach a common ground.
All right, at this point, we have a motion to authorize the president and treasurer of the board in consultation with legal counsel to negotiate
Madam
with the
President?
superintendent regarding
Madam President?
modifications to the current employment contract. Trustee Lukui, you've already made your comment.
I had another question.
Well, let's make it a question and not a whole statement.
Well, my question is, isn't it true that when our superintendent joined this district, he had no superintendent experience? He was coming from an HR role in a different district. He received a major promotion when he took this job and a $50,000 raise.
There's no question.
Thank you,
That
Trustee
was-
Gupta. Your
Well, is that
point
true?
of order is upheld. All of those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say no.
No.
That's a 5-1, so we will move forward with that. At this point, we do not have any public comment, so I would ask, if there's no objection, we will adjourn the meeting at 5:56, and then we will start our next meeting at 6 p.m.